Hey guys, okay, we're going to be making a live edge desk today for my wife. It's going to be like a stand-up desk. So I've got this piece of poplar here that I milled a couple of years ago with a chainsaw mill. So it's 2 inches thick, rough cut right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this in half after we plane it and everything, and then we're going to glue the two pieces together, so we'll end up with approximately a 24-inch by 4-foot wide tabletop. So the very first step is we got to cut this one edge off, A, so it'll fit through the 13-inch planer, and B, so that we have a straight kind of reference and a place to glue the two pieces together. So I don't have a professional track saw, so we're going to use this piece of aluminum, straight aluminum tube, super straight. We're just going to lay it there, and then we're going to run a circular saw down the one side, and we're going to size it up to where we want it. And then we'll run it through the planer, flatten it out, and then I might run it through the table saw one more time after it's flat this way, because the board does have a bit of a cup in it like this. So the planer will take that out, and then I'll run it through the table saw one more time to get this edge 90 degrees to this edge. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so we want to maximize the width of this. So the planer's 13, but I like to keep it at about 12 inches wide. So we'll find, I think we're going to keep this edge because it has the most sort of unique qualities to it. Yeah, or maybe actually I think we'll keep this edge because it's a lot straighter. So we'll get actually a bigger table if we keep this edge, because this has like a sort of a thing that comes out like this. So we'll take our measurements from this side. So if we want to maintain a foot, it'll be approximately here. Okay, so now the way the saw works, obviously the blade is offset from the guide, so we need to make sure. Let's just put this on these lines first. Okay, so if we cut it there, I think we'll be okay. We're sort of this side of all those marks I made. Okay, so we'll reference this mark then and this mark. And so yeah, because the saw is offset a bit, we're going to measure back 6.5 inches. It's going to depend on your saw, but mine, we got to be 6.5 inches back. So right there. And right there. Okay, so we're going to clamp this metal down, and then we'll run the saw down here. So this is the saw squatch by Skill Saw. We usually use this when we're cutting 6x6s, but it's perfect for this. So I'm going to get this positioned and clamped to the sawhorses, and then we'll make the cut. So that does not a bad cut. I mean, this piece is obviously warped because it's so thin, but really smooth, nice cut. You see how bad it is, but because yeah, so it's a little bit, so when I bring the square in, there's a little bit of a gap right at the top here, so it's not exactly 90 degrees, but the planer will fix that, and then we're going to run it through the table saw one more time, and then that should straighten it right out. Okay, so we run both boards through the planer a bunch of times, and turned out really nice. Got them nice and flat, especially on the one side. So always impressed with how the planer does such a nice job. So I just actually turned the blades on this, and yeah, it's like glass basically. It's actually smoother than you can get it from sanding. So planer is a great investment if you're going to be doing a lot of this stuff. So now what we got to do, like I talked about earlier, is if you look down, it's not perfectly 90 degrees right here, which means our glue joint will be a little bit wacky. So what we're going to do is run this through the table saw, straighten this one edge or make it 90 degrees, and then we're also going to cut the bark off of this edge right here, because the side that's going to be against the wall, we don't want to have bark. We just want the bark on the one outside. Okay, so we got them nice and square now. So when we put the square on this plain surface, there's no light there right here, so we're perfectly 90. So these will go together very nice. And right here, we're good. Nice and square. So we're gonna start gluing these together now. So we're gonna do it on the floor because I don't have a lot of table space. Okay, so we've got our clamps laid out. We'll lay our boards down. These are just little pieces of steel or aluminum railing spindles. You can use anything here that's nice and straight. I'm not too worried about these bending too much. It's just a small little table. So this is just going to help us line up the ends. Okay, so for the two leg bases, I'm going to be using this 3x3 by 1/8 inch wall square tubing. So these already had 45s cut on them. I use them for something else. So basically they're going to go down on the ground like this, and then I'm going to do a piece of 2x2 tube that comes up to the bottom of the table. So I just got to cut this angle over here, and then I'm going to weld caps on here and then finish it nice. So we'll start doing that now. Okay, so now that I got the caps made, I'm going to weld them on, and we'll finish it all up nice. So this will be all smooth, give it like kind of a rustic look. So I'm just going to weld that here. And then I had an idea. I want these bases to be pretty heavy so it holds the table stable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this tube with sand after I weld this cap on. Then we'll weld the other cap on, and then it'll give us some weight to this, which will be nice. Okay, so I filled this whole tube up with sand, packed it in there pretty good, and now we're just going to weld the other cap on. That turned out really nice. We're going to finish that up with the flap disc and really clean it up nice. But for now, that's good. We'll build the other one, fill it with sand, and then we'll have our 2 feet ready to go. Cut the 2 legs now. 37 3/4 is what they need to be. so I got it up on the bench here. I just clamped these pieces of angle at 1 foot off the ground, or off the bench. And I'm going to cut this piece of bar here, 1-inch bar, to go in between here. So it's 34 inches, so I'm going to cut that now, weld it in place. And it'll just give it a little bit more stability. The wood top will hold the top. This will give it a little bit of stability at the bottom. And also it'll be a place to kind of put your feet if you're sitting on a stool if you don't want to stand up and tight. So I'll cut that right now. Good morning, guys. Next day now. So glue's dried. So we'll take that out of the clamps in a sec. Just got to cut the angle I'm going to use for the tops of these legs to secure the table to the legs. So I'm going to cut a piece of angle that's going to be welded right here, and then it's going to go sort of this way, and it's going to secure the underside of the table to the legs. So we're going to cut and drill that out right now, and then we'll weld it onto the tops of those legs there. So for these, we're going to go 18 inches as well. Okay, so I cleaned these up. Rounded the ends and drilled holes in, and we're just going to mount them to the inside of these posts. Sort of like this. Okay, so we'll start unclamping the tabletop here. Yeah, I think it turned out pretty nice. What we're going to do now is we're going to start sanding the top of this, because I don't have a planer big enough to put this whole piece in. If you did have a planer big enough, you could just run this whole piece right through and you're done. Another way is a router sort of box, and what you do is you make a box around this, and it's basically a guide for a router bit, and you just keep going back and forth on it, and it acts like a planer as well. But we're just going to sand this off here, and then all we're going to do is a clear coat, sort of like a min-wax clear coat, because we like the light color of this wood. down, got the glue line out of there. It's actually a pretty tight joint, so it's not too bad. Now I got my router set up with a 1/4 inch round bit, and I'm just going to go around the 3 sides here and just kind of round it off, make it look a little nicer, a little softer. And then what I might do is just hit this rough edge on the bark here with a little, like a burr on a die grinder, or maybe sandpaper, I'm not sure yet, but we'll try the die grinder after the router here. Just rounding off the edge there. Now for here, I just quickly tried the palm sander on it, and it seems to work pretty well for just smoothing off this rough edge. It did look like this, kind of sharp. But yeah, if I just hit it with that, it's pretty good. So I do that on here and on the bottom, and just finish any little imperfections that the router left with the palm sander. The top down, so I wanted it aligned, like let's say you put it into a corner, it's nice to have the tabletop obviously aligned with the legs. So I just took my 4-foot level and made some marks on the floor there, kind of like this, and measured out approximately 1.5 inches, and then used that outside line to transfer a mark up to the top. And that way I know when this edge of the table is up against the wall, the legs will be sort of parallel with it, so it looks nice. And then I just centered it this way on the legs, and I'm just going to use 1.5 inch pan head screws, and we're going to pre-drill just so nothing splits. Clamp here to hold everything square until I put these screws in. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty much it for the actual construction part of everything. I think it turned out pretty nice. So we're just going to clean the shop up now and get ready to coat this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put the polyurethane on, just a clear gloss. We're not giving this any tint, so probably gonna end up doing about 3 coats. Okay, so there's the first coat applied. Looks pretty good. So I think I'm probably gonna end up doing at least 3 coats. So I'm gonna come back to this in about 46 hours and sand it with 220, apply a second coat. Okay, so it's been about 3 hours and it's all dry, first coat. So we're just gonna hit it quick with some 220 sandpaper, just so the next coat sticks well. And it takes down all like the bumps. And just before I put the second coat on, I'm just gonna use this tack cloth to get off all the fine dust. So if you wipe it, there's fine dust all over it. So we just wipe it with this. You can get this at any hardware store pretty much. It's basically just a cheesecloth with wax on it.